Well, I think that's great that you're thinking about going back into fighting. I mean, you're still a young guy. Like, how old are you now?
I'm 41.
41. That's plenty of time. Like, think about it. Think about it. Two things. One is, the direct and the indirect. So direct, Randy Couture started fighting at 33. He retired at 47, right? And he was a badass, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, you look back at historically when people were eating properly, they were like the competitive athletes of their time for decades longer than we are now, right?
Mm.
Well, I mean, this is all, fighting being the closest thing to that. All these sports, these combat sports, I mean, they're just surrogates for war. These are surrogates for fighting and showing dominance and defeating an enemy, right? So let's go back to actual warriors. You look at Alexander the Great. When he conquered the known world, his warriors, his foot soldiers that held a 14-foot spear with a 5-foot tall, foot long blade, and they'd just be holding that sucker,
Easy.
stabbing the hell out of people. His foot soldiers, they ranged from in their 20s to in their 60s, right? So these guys were going around for
Wow.
45 years just murdering people, right? With big heavy equipment on them, right?
Yeah,
Like if your body's breaking down, if
totally.
you're not capable of doing that, you're in trouble. And the thing is these are the most dangerous ones. They know how to survive. They know how to fight. They know how to get the job done, right? And that's you. You've got 20 years of experience now, and now your body's working as good or better as when you were 20, right? Because you're feeding it properly, right? And then one of Alexander
Yeah.
the Great's
Yeah.
generals, back then, the generals didn't just sit in a tent and just like direct the troops. They were out in the front lines. So Alexander led his troops. He was at the front of every cavalry charge. One of his other generals led one of his other wings of cavalry. He was 78, 78, leading the charge on a horse in full armor, just hacking the
Wow.
hell out of people, right? So the
Crazy.
yeah, the body's way more capable of that, and you're seeing that now. You're seeing that things sort of coming together. I mean, your mom's from the sounds of it, she's aging backwards. She's looking younger. She's getting healthier, you know, and our bodies are so much more capable than that. We're designed by genetically, we're designed to live 120 years on average, meaning that if you just stay out of your own way and don't mess up, you should make it to 120 without doing anything special, right? And yet we're dying in our 60s and 70s and saying 80s, well, that's pretty good, right? 90, wow, they lived a long time. It's 4 decades early,
Yeah.
right? And that means if you died 3 or 4 decades early, it's because you've been poisoning yourself and you've been sick for years leading up to that, and your body's been breaking down. Doesn't have to do that. Native Americans, they're out in the plains, hunting buffalo and things like that. They were living to be 110, 120, sometimes longer than that. And they didn't have old folks' homes.
Really?
There wasn't people going around
Where
with
did you where
dementia.
did you where did you hear that? Like where did you
That was in my
find that?
genetics class. I learned that in genetics at the University of Washington 20 years ago. That we know as
Wow.
geneticists, based on the length of our telomeres on our chromosomes, that we should live to be 120 years on average. That's what humans are designed for biologically. Yeah. Yeah. So, thinking that like you and I are middle
That's a
aged now.
challenge. Let's
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
I'm gonna live to 125.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm on a 130-year timeline. That's how I think about
Let's
it,
go.
you
I
know?
like it.
And then we'll figure out, we'll see if some of these longevity people, they figure something out. And, I mean, I don't dabble in that at the moment because it's like everything's pretty preliminary. But, again, I'm working on a 130-year timeline. So in the next 20, 30 years, if something pans out to be great. Yeah, sure. I'll start taking it after there's some like, good hard evidence to go with it. But,
Yeah, yeah.
already I'm going to live, decades longer than I would otherwise. So, I got time, but your body's going to work actually properly. Saying that we're middle aged, like when we're still in, we've just come up to 1/3 of our natural life, right? When you get into your 40s, that's like that's still prime adulthood. Literally
Totally.
prime of your life. And you'll see this when you
Yeah.
start training. When the more you train on carnivore, and the better you feel, and the better your results get, and lifting weights, you're going to put on muscle easier than you ever have in your life, and your energy is just going to
Yeah,
be
I'm
through the
excited.
roof. And just to we can talk about the science and everything like that. I did a whole talk on ketogenic carnivore athletes, talking about how it's much better as an explosive athlete to be on a carnivore, ketogenic carnivore diet. But the only thing that you need to show the guys on your team up is just beat their ass. Like it's just
Oh
like,
yeah, I
you
do.
know,
But
it's like,
that's the problem though. Is I'm I've been beating their ass before,
mhm,
right? I've been
yeah.
beating their ass regardless of the diet. So
So what are they
that's
complaining
not
about? You know,
a
they say they're saying that you don't have, like, you may not have the explosive power or whatever, but did you lose any explosive power? I mean, that should be obvious to anyone that you haven't. And it's like, all right, you just train up like a crazy ass workout, just really just drive it home that like you're on another level than they are. Like it was that was
yeah,
I was I'm sure Matt Hume, who's a great
yeah.
MMA fighter and trainer. So I trained with him since I was 14. I got lucky that his
Whoa,
gym,
cool.
yeah, AMC, was a few miles from my house, and he was the high school wrestling coach. And I started
Uh,
fighting, well, training, before I even went to high school, and was on the wrestling team and things like that. But I'd
dang.
heard that he was going to be the coach there too. And so I went down there, and I just, like, yeah, I wanted to do that. So I was training um, there, and I absolutely loved it. So it was just like every day I finished school, I would come home, I'd take a nap on the couch, I'd get up, and it was like 4 o'clock. I'd either cycle or run down. And then training started like 4:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, and then 7 o'clock was fighters training. And I trained from, yeah, it was 7 to 10 o'clock every day. And so I was there from like 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock every single day, and absolutely loved it. And and I was in pretty good shape. I was definitely in better shape than a lot of people in my school, just being out of training I had. But then we did this one thing where Matt took us up, and we ran up from AMC up to the high school, up to the track up there. And it was a few miles up, and so we didn't know what he wanted us to do. We didn't know what was going on, right? And so we just ran up there, and it was like 3, 4 miles up there, and I was at the front of the pack, and I was up there running with Matt, and then sort of in the last, like, you know half mile or something like that, I just picked it up, and I just ramped up, and I beat him, and I beat Matt by 100 yards or so. And I was just there, just crowing. Oh, look at me! I'm the first one here. I beat Matt and everything like that. And these are, I'm a teenager. Like like a fairly young teenager, and these are all pro fighters. And there's Matt Hume, and he's still fighting at this point. So this guy is, super fit, and I'm there crying. Oh, look at me! I came first. We had no idea what he had planned in store for us. That was just getting to the workout. That wasn't even the workout, right? He had us go to the track. He said, "Okay, so here's the thing. We're going to sprint the straights, and you can jog the outside. You can go as slow as you want around the outside. You can run, you can jog, you can walk, you can crawl, but you have to keep moving. And then when you get to that line on the straight, it's a 100 meter sprint. It's just all out. And you'll try to line up where you're with somebody, so you can like go against each other and try to race each other. So you really challenge each other. And and we're just like, oh, okay, how long are we doing that? It's just like until I tell you to stop. And oh my God, dude, I don't know if this was like in his plan to like just like really like humble me in particular and us, because I was just like, oh, look at me, I came in first. He's just like, you're gonna know exactly like how where you stand. We were there, I swear to God, we were there for hours, just hours. And like it was the point that like we're going, and we're hitting the sprints, and we got to the point where we were just panting and sweating and just barely moving around the outside. And then we go hard as hell on those sprints, but oh, we were dying around the flats and we're just desperate to try to get to like racing to that line so we could rest. The faster we got there, the faster we could rest and
Yeah.
walk slowly. He never slowed down. He didn't slow down at all. He lapped us like at least 10 times. I am not exaggerating. Like easily lapped us 10 times. Dude never slowed down. He just kept trucking. And he was going around the
Oh my
outside.
God.
He was running. He was like going at a fair clip. And then he hit the straight, whoa, and he would just take off. And and then we had to run back. And then we had to keep training. I've never been so exhausted and so dead in my life.
Oh my
Running back,
God.
I was struggling to get back. And and then we had like this whole training. I'm like, we're still going? Like, Jesus. And he just, man, he ground us into the ground. And it was just like there was just I mean, if I ever thought in my life, I mean, I didn't think for a second I was in better shape than him. I just thought it was kind of cool to get in front of him. Man, I paid for that.